Okay, meetup game. Graton Casino, meetup game number 2. Yeah, games are just getting underway. We got 111 people on the interest list last time I looked. A little bit overwhelming, but awesome to see. And we'll see how many people actually show up. Hopefully, almost everyone. And keep all my money. Okay, I'll try and do that. I'll try my best. Make more money. Alright guys, just through these windows back here, that's the poker room. And in that poker room, every single table is in use. Meetup game is underway. We got 7 tables, once again, of 3-5 no limits Texas Hold'em. Poker room is full to capacity, and just an awesome turnout here once again at Graton Casino in Rohnert Park, California. So it's just really cool to see the interest and the excitement for these meetup games continues to build. This is a new current record for the interest list. So many friendly people, both on the staff and across the table. I'm going to be coming at you guys voiceover style for these poker hands that we get into today, just so I can try and spend as much time with as many people that turned out to play with us today as I possibly can. So without any further ado, let's get in there, let's mix it up, let's play some poker and have a couple beers along the way as well.
All right, we're back in action with $1,000 playing 3-5 in one of the nicest poker rooms in the country. Not only that, but we get a warm welcome looking down at Ace King on the button early on. It folds to me and I raise it to $15 and both blinds make the call. We make top pair on King 9-6 Rainbow, and when it checks to me, I bet $25. I think I could size a little bigger, but with no flush draws available, I don't mind it. Only the big blind makes the call. The turn is an offsuit 8, and after the big blind checks to me, I decide to slow down. I'm not sure I can get 3 streets here, and this card can improve a few hands that the big blind would defend with. The river looks much better. It's another king. He leads small with a $35 bet, and I think we want to go for more value here. I won't have a ton of bluffs in this spot, but there are a select few, and flatting is just too weak facing that small sizing. I make it 140 to go, and my opponent thinks for a little while before tossing in a call. We roll it over and we're good. In this next hand, we open King Jack offsuit from the low jack, and we see calls from the hijack and the button. We make 2 pair on King Queen Jack, and we happily c-bet $30, which only the button calls. The turn is not ideal. It's a 10, putting 4 to a straight out there. I check it and the button checks back. The river's a brick, and I check it again, after which my opponent bets $25. I can't beat much other than a worse 2 pair going for thin value, but it's a super small bet and nobody likes folding 2 pair. So I toss it in and get shown the bad news versus ace 5 of clubs. The good news is that my opponent's name is Andrew, and that's a fantastic name, so I'm not too tilted about him nailing that gutter ball versus me. But if he had a different name, we'd have flipped this table over by now. In this hand, the cutoff opens the action for $20, and we see ace-queen offsuit on the button. We rate to have the best hand, and there's no reason to give the blinds too good of a price, so I 3-bet it to $60. The small blind does cold call anyway, and the initial raiser calls, so 3 ways to a flop of ace-10-6 Rainbow. It checks to me, and I c-bet $75, which both players call. The turn is another 10, and the small blind checks. The cutoff, however, puts out a bet of $150. It's not a great spot because the 10 is a much better card for my opponent's ranges than it is for mine, considering that I would pretty much never c-bet a 10 on the flop. He's much more likely to have a 10 than I am, and there also aren't any clear draws on this flop. Complicating things further is the fact that the small blind is still yet to act behind me on this street. So with all those factors in mind, I make a reluctant fold, and the small blind folds as well. I offer the cutoff a small payment to show his hand, and he lets me pick 1 card. I didn't really want to see any card that could indicate a gutshot straight draw. Looking back, I wouldn't hate calling down with my exact hand, since there are a lot of worse aces I could fold in that spot that I might have used as a 3-bet bluff pre-flop. So it might be that ace-queen is too strong to fold in that spot. But I think all the factors I mentioned on the turn before making my decision were reasonable, and I don't think it's super clear either way. That being said, I'm pretty sure we got bluffed there unless he happened to have 10-7 suited, so job well done on his part. Still on the same table here, looking down at 9-8 of clubs from the cutoff, and I raise it to $20. Only the button calls. The two of us see a flop of 9-5-4, 2 spades, and 1 heart. I bet top pair to the tune of $25, and he calls. The turn is the 6 of hearts, which brings in a backdoor flush draw, and I bet it again for $50, looking to charge flush draws and deny overcard hands that might have floated the flop. However, my opponent puts in the min raise up to $100. I definitely don't love the spot on such a connected board, but with top pair, a straight draw, and only facing a min raise, I decided to call. The river is the 10 of spades, which isn't great because now the front door flush draw arrives as well. My opponent bets $150, and seeing as we don't block any potential flushes, and we have the weakest potential top pair holding in our range, I let it go. We then promptly get shown ace-8 offsuit. Apparently, these Californians came to this meetup game with the bluffing hats on, and I'm just getting bluffed out of my shoes here, left and right. We move off of that table in search of greener pastures, or at least pastures where we don't get our souls owned every single hand, and we look down at pocket tens in the low jack. We make it $20 to go before immediately getting 3-bet by the cutoff, who makes it $70. Looking to flop either an overpair or a set, I go ahead and call and flop neither. It comes ace jack 8 with 2 hearts. I check, and after my opponent down bets the flop to I think $50, I let it go as we're probably behind too much of his 3-bet range. Even when he has a hand like king queen, that's still 2 overs plus a gutter ball, and it seems like there will be plenty of better hands we can call with in this kind of a spot that have a better chance of either being the best hand or improving to the best hand. With pretty much nothing going my way so far in this session, I decided to do what any tilted poker player might do in my spot. I request a massage. But not just any massage. A full-on 50-minute couples massage with Busi in the Graton Spa. It was magnificent. All right, feeling properly detilted and hopping back into the action, we see a raise to $20 from early position before looking down at ace-10 of hearts on the button. I go ahead and make the call while everyone else folds out of fear of a recently massaged man in the pot. We flop the nut flush draw on 6-5-3, and we check it back after my opponent checks. The jack of spades on the turn doesn't improve us, but we won't be folding after my opponent bets $25. And there definitely won't be any folding on the river either since we make the nuts on the queen of hearts. Happy to see my opponent bet $45, which we promptly raise up to $150. He thinks out loud by saying this doesn't make any sense, which of course we're happy to hear. And it gets even better when my opponent does in fact talk himself into a call.
Oh, it does make sense. How much? 150?
150.
Love free money.
Make it to the vlog.
This is the only guy wearing my apparel too. Not right. It's not. Looking to gather some momentum now, and we look at a premium hand from under the gun. It's the 3rd best hand ever created, pocket queens. I make it $20 to go, and both of the blinds call. The flop is a favorable one, you guys. Queen, queen, deuce. Action checks to me, and with hardly anything that can continue on this board, I check it back. The turn is the 8 of clubs, which brings a backdoor flush draw on board, but unfortunately action checks to me again. I beg for action with a bet of $15, and our prayers are answered when the small blind check raises to $30. It's a min-raise, but we'll take it. The big blind folds, and I flat call in order to try and keep his range wide. The river's the 10 of hearts, and he drops $45 into our pocket before we spring the trap and raise to $205. I think we can size up here since we know he'll usually have a bluff or a strong hand like pocket deuces, pocket eights, or he's going to have a weak hand like ace-8 suited, or the bluffs that won't call anyway. Sure enough, my opponent insta-folds. But there's some more good news. If there are no stronger hands made in the room for the next 30 minutes, we will win a mini jackpot of $500, so the sweat is on.
All right, if this quad queens with a 10 holds up until 6 p.m., That's $500 in our pocket.
Yeah, that sweat, that lasted for about 10 minutes.
We've had one too many quads on the vlog, so somebody had to go and make quad kings. Disqualify us for the $500 high hand of the hour. This is the guy that crushed my hopes and dreams, my high hand bonus dreams. Hope you're happy with yourself. Yeah. Anyway, just a quick update here. Pretty close to even. Had some ups, some downs, kind of in the reverse order. Downs, and then had a good few hands at that last table. Sitting at my fourth table now, trying to make my way through as many tables as I can. I think this is fourth. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think this is the fourth table. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it to all the tables, but doing my best.
I lost a few small pots on this table. No major clashes, just a handful of situations like this one where I'd open a hand like King Jack off suit in a straddled pot to $35, and my opponent would put in a big 3-bet, and I'd be forced to fold. When that happens several times over, it's right back to Stuckville. Hoping for another change of pace, and it comes with our second look at pocket queens in this session. I make it $20 from under the gun, and we get 2 callers. It isn't quads, but it's mostly safe on 9-5-3 with 2 hearts. The big blind checks, and I bet $40, which only the big blind calls. The turn brings an overcard. It's an offsuit king, but I don't want to give any free cards here with a flush draw and some straight draws available. I bet $110, and my opponent is a believer as he folds. We find another pocket pair on our 5th table of the day, looking at pocket 8s and raise to $20 from early position. A player in middle position decides that's not enough money and 3-bets to $70, and it folds back to us before we toss in the extra 50. The flop comes King 5-5 and action checks through. The turn is a 10 and it's the second club, but still no betting from either of us. We see a 7 on the river, and action checks through one last time before we show it down, and my opponent mucks, which is a very welcome sight. Not too sure we would have been able to continue facing a bet on any street there, but no complaints from us. An interesting hand develops here when we raise 7-6 of hearts to $20 from under the gun and get 2 callers. Flop ourselves an inside straight flush draw, Jack 8-4. The big blind checks, and I go ahead and bet $30 with a good amount of equity, but obviously no showdown value here. The player on my left folds, and the big blind calls. The turn is a total brick, offsuit deuce, and he checks it over to me. I want to continue pushing my equity here, and I bet $80 this time before my opponent lets it go. Always a good result when you can take it down with 7 high. All right, one more fun one here as we're trying to inch our way back to even in this meetup game. One fun aspect of these games is that the bomb pots are pretty much a regular thing at every dealer change now. And slowly but surely, the double board bomb pots are becoming a regular fixture as well. Again, the way this works is that half the pot goes to the winner of each board. And if you can either get everyone to fold or somehow show down a winning hand on both boards, you get the whole pot. Here we have Queen 4 offsuit in a $20 double board bomb pot. We flop air on the first board and trips with a weak kicker on the second board. There's a bet of $50 in middle position. If we had a strong kicker, I could see raising and going with the hand, but I think we have to be a little cautious for now. I flat call, and there's a call on my left. 3 ways to the turn in which we see no help on the first board, but improve to a full house on the second board. Now I'm happy to go with my hand since we have the second nuts on the second board. If we can get our opponents to fold, that'd be a great result considering we're often drawing dead on the first board. I bet $250. The player on my left folds, and the player in middle position thinks for a long time. Unfortunately, he's not ready to give it up. The river up top gives us a pair, but it's the 4th club, and the river on the bottom is the 5 of clubs. My opponent open jams his stack. If we're unlucky enough to get beat on the bottom board, it's just not our night. We're calling for half the pot, and we'll still show a profit if our full house is good on the bottom board. Go ahead and make the call, and our opponent shows us pocket kings with the king of clubs for the nut flush on top and 2 pair on the bottom. So we do get half the pot. It seems like a reasonable call on the turn since it's tough for him to be beat on both boards unless we have exactly ace queen, but he still has flush draw outs in that case. It's also impossible for us to have a flush and a queen since the queen of clubs is on the bottom board. I think the double board bomb pots are a really fun occasional twist to the games since they can take your mind down some different uncharted territory, and No Limit Hold'em can for sure use some unique twists and turns in my opinion. Potentially more important than that, however, is the final tally. We got into this 3-5 game for $1,300. We cash out of the game for $1,309.
Another very fun meetup game over here at Graton Casino. Amazing that we can get such an awesome turnout for these games. Seems like there is a demand, and that demand is not going anywhere for such a fun and casual poker night. People can get face to face with each other. Everyone's trying to win, of course, but it seems like winning isn't quite as important as it usually is at these meetup games. I'm trying to win, of course. Managed to squeak out a win, $9, but then again, happy to just be here and have some drinks and get to meet some very nice vlog watching people face to face. Gonna hang out back here for Brad's birthday and have a slice of cake and a couple drinks. Looking forward to the next meetup game. I'm sure we'll be back here at Graton Casino in the very near future.